Earth had always been a quiet, unassuming planet. Tucked away in the far corner of the Milky Way, it had been untouched by the vastness of the galaxy. For centuries, humans had lived in peace, isolated from the ever-expanding galactic empire that ruled over countless worlds. No one had dared to approach Earth, until now. The first sign of trouble came in the form of a sudden, unfamiliar signal. Earth's space agencies, which had been monitoring the stars for decades, picked up a massive fleet moving towards the planet. It was unlike anything they had ever seen. Hundreds of ships, each enormous and glittering with strange, unknown technology, were heading directly for Earth. News of the approaching fleet spread quickly across the world, causing panic in some places and confusion in others. Governments scrambled to respond, but there was no real plan in place. Earth had never prepared for something like this. The fleet, belonging to the Galactic Empire, was on a mission to claim Earth as its own. The Empire had already conquered hundreds of planets, some far more advanced than Earth, but none of them had ever been as stubborn or resistant to change as the humans. Emperor Zolar, a being of terrifying power and intellect, had always prided himself on his empire's efficiency. Every world they encountered had bowed to his will, and he expected no different from this tiny blue planet. The human leaders, however, were not so easily intimidated. Larek Su, the head of Earth's United Nations, was one of the first to hear of the Empire's arrival. She had spent her life in diplomacy, navigating the complex world of global politics. But this was unlike anything she had ever faced. As she sat in her office, watching the screens light up with reports from Earth's space stations, she felt a chill run down her spine. The Empire's fleet was unlike anything they had ever imagined. Huge ships, with their sleek alien designs, glided silently through space. They were coming closer, and with them, the weight of 1,000 years of galactic history. "Are we prepared?" Lara asked, turning to her advisors. A nervous silence followed. The room was filled with representatives from every corner of Earth, all nations united for the first time under one roof. The arrival of the Empire was something none of them had ever considered. Some of the more conservative leaders suggested negotiating, giving in to the Empire's demands for control. After all, the Empire was powerful, and Earth was only a small, relatively underdeveloped planet by galactic standards. But Larek Su was not one to give up so easily. She stood tall, facing the group, her voice steady but firm. "We have no choice but to refuse. Earth is not theirs to take. We are a sovereign world. If they want to conquer us, they will have to come through us." Her words rang through the room, striking a chord with the others. They had lived in peace for centuries, free from the tyranny of space-faring empires. Now, for the first time, they were faced with the very real possibility of losing that freedom. The Empire's arrival was not just an invasion, it was a test of humanity's will. Would Earth bow to the might of a galaxy-spanning empire, or would the humans fight for their home, their freedom, and their future? The decision was made quickly. Earth's leaders voted unanimously to reject the Empire's demands. There would be no negotiations, no surrender, no passage would be granted. Back in the heart of the United Nations building, Larek Su looked out at the bustling streets of New York City. The city was quiet, as if the people already knew what was coming. But in her heart, she felt something stronger than fear: resolve. She knew that this would be the moment that defined humanity's future. The Empire may have been powerful, but humanity had something they could not understand. Earth had something no empire could ever take: the will to survive. As the fleet of the Galactic Empire grew ever closer, the people of Earth began to prepare, not just for war, but for the unknown. Their planet had never faced an enemy like this, but Earth was not weak. It had survived plagues, wars, and natural disasters. It had stood the test of time. Now, humanity would stand united against the most powerful empire the galaxy had ever seen. The arrival of the Galactic Empire had sent shockwaves through the world. News outlets, government officials, and military leaders all scrambled to respond, but there was one thing that everyone could agree on: Earth's future was at stake. Lara Xu stood at the front of the United Nations chamber, her gaze fixed on the large screen that displayed the fleet of the Galactic Empire. Thousands of ships, each more magnificent and terrifying than the last, filled the screen, slowly approaching Earth's orbit. The message from Emperor Zidler had been clear. He demanded Earth's submission. "You will surrender or face the consequences," the message had said. And yet, despite the overwhelming power of the Empire, the leaders of Earth knew they could not simply give in. The room was filled with representatives from every country, each voice anxious and uncertain. The Empire was unlike anything they had ever encountered. How could a planet of humans stand against such an overwhelming force? Some of the leaders were already whispering about the possibility of negotiation. "Maybe we can offer something," one representative from Europe suggested nervously. "A peaceful resolution. Perhaps the Empire will be satisfied with some form of tribute." Lara Xu listened, but her mind was already made up. She knew that Earth could not give in. If they allowed the Empire to take control now, they might never have the chance to fight for their freedom again. There had to be another way. "Earth cannot submit," she said, her voice calm but firm. "If we do, we will lose everything we have fought for. The freedom of our people, our future, our very identity. We cannot allow this empire to think they can simply take whatever they want. We must stand together and refuse." The room fell silent. It was a bold statement, one that carried weight. Some of the leaders looked at each other with uncertainty, unsure of how to respond. Others, like the representative from Africa, nodded in agreement. "She's right," he said. "We've survived so much as a species. We've faced countless challenges, from natural disasters to wars. Why should we give up now?" Lara Xu continued, her words cutting through the tension in the room. "We may not have the technology or the resources of the Galactic Empire, but we have something they can't take from us. Our spirit, our unity, humanity's ability to overcome even the greatest obstacles. We must make them see that we are not a world to be conquered." After a few moments of silence, the representative from South America stood up. "I agree," he said. "We must stand united. If the Empire thinks we will bend, they are mistaken. But we cannot face this alone. We need to work together, and we need to work fast." Lara nodded. "Exactly. This will be a fight unlike any we've ever seen. We have to put aside our differences and come together as one. Only then will we stand a chance." The debate continued for hours, with leaders discussing everything from possible alliances to strategies for defense. Some argued for immediate action, while others suggested waiting to see if the Empire would make the first move. But no matter their differences, one thing was clear: Earth would not submit. Earth would fight. Finally, the vote was called. It was a simple question. Should Earth reject the Empire's demands and stand firm in defense of its sovereignty? The vote was unanimous. The room erupted in applause, but Lara Xu knew the hard part was just beginning. They had made their decision, but now they had to face the consequences. The Empire would not take kindly to defiance. Outside the United Nations building, the sky above was filled with a sense of stillness. The streets of the world's major cities, which had once been bustling with activity, were now eerily quiet. People watched from their windows as the fleet of alien ships loomed in the distance. They knew that the world they had known would never be the same again. Lara Xu stood before the gathered leaders, a sense of determination in her heart. "We have made the right decision," she said, her voice resolute. "Now, we must be prepared for whatever comes next." As the leaders of Earth began to plan their next steps, a sense of unity began to grow. Despite the uncertainty, despite the fear, humanity was coming together. They were no longer divided by borders, politics, or history. They were united by one simple truth: Earth was their home, and they would protect it at all costs. The decision had been made. Earth would not bow to the Galactic Empire. Lara Xu, standing in front of the United Nations Assembly, could feel the weight of their choice. It was a brave stance, but in the silence that followed, she also knew it was a dangerous one. As the representatives filed out of the room, their faces were filled with uncertainty. They had voted in unity, but the reality of their decision was beginning to sink in. The Empire had never encountered a world that dared to refuse its power. Would Earth be able to stand its ground against a force so vast? In the vastness of space, the Galactic Empire had already begun to act. Their fleet, still positioned in Earth's orbit, had received Emperor Zeller's orders. For the first time in years, the Emperor felt something he was not accustomed to: frustration. Zellar was not a man to tolerate defiance. He had conquered worlds for centuries, each submission a testament to his greatness. The notion that a primitive, insignificant planet like Earth could stand against him was an insult. He had not anticipated this response, and it enraged him. No other species had dared reject the Empire's offer, and Earth would not be an exception. On the Empire's flagship, the Excalion, Zallar stood in his command center, his mind already calculating his next move. His generals and advisors gathered around, waiting for their emperor to speak. How is it possible that they refuse? Zellar's voice was cold, his tone betraying his anger. We are the might of the galaxy. We bring peace, order, prosperity. What is this planet thinking? One of his advisors, a tall figure with green skin and glowing yellow eyes, spoke up. Emperor, they are humans. They have a history of stubbornness. Perhaps we underestimated them, but their technology is primitive. Their defenses are weak. Zillar turned slowly to face the advisor, his eyes narrowing. Primitive, weak. They dare to challenge the might of the Empire. Prepare the fleet. We will show them the consequences of defiance. Earth will submit, or it will be destroyed. The room fell into a tense silence as Zillar's command was passed down the chain of command. The Empire would not let this challenge go unanswered. But even as the fleet's commanders began to prepare their ships for action, one of them, a young officer named Arian, hesitated. Arian had spent years serving the Empire, following orders without question. But the arrogance with which Zallar had decided to crush Earth unnerved him. He knew the Empire had vast power, but there was something about Earth that unsettled him, something in the way its people fought to protect what was theirs. Emperor, Arian said, his voice steady but filled with caution. Perhaps we should consider a different approach. Earth has shown strength in their unity. Rather than destroy them, could we not offer them a partnership, a chance to join the Empire willingly? Zillar's gaze turned icy. You question my judgment, officer. Arian quickly lowered his head. No, Emperor. I only suggest that we avoid unnecessary destruction. A partnership might gain us more than a conquest. Zillar considered this for a moment before dismissing the officer with a wave of his hand. I do not need your advice, Arian. The Empire's power will make them see reason. They will learn that no one rejects the Emperor. No one. Back on Earth, news of the Empire's anger was spreading rapidly. Governments around the world were preparing for the worst, but Lara Xu and the others were not afraid. Earth's leaders had already begun making plans. They had rejected the Empire, and now they would defend their world with everything they had. As Lara stood by the window of her office in the United Nations building, looking out over the skyline of New York City, she felt a sense of calm. The Empire's threats didn't frighten her. Instead, she was filled with determination. Humanity had been through worse. Wars, natural disasters, countless challenges, and every time, they had found a way to survive. This time would be no different. How long do we have? Lara asked, turning to one of her advisors, who was monitoring the situation from a nearby console. Hours, the advisor replied. They're preparing for something. It could be an attack, but it's hard to tell. We need to be ready. Lara nodded. We will be. Let them come. Earth will not bend. The people of Earth, though uncertain about what the Empire's next move would be, were beginning to rally together. Citizens in cities around the globe organized protests and gatherings, not against the Empire, but in support of Earth's decision to remain free. Scientists and engineers began working around the clock, preparing whatever defenses Earth could muster. People from all walks of life, from farmers to astronauts, were united by a common cause. Earth was not just a planet. It was a home, a symbol of the human spirit, and it was something that no empire, no matter how powerful, could easily take. In the vastness of space, the Galactic Empire prepared to make its move, but for the first time in its long history, it would face something it hadn't expected, a planet that refused to submit. The Galactic Empire's ships had grown larger in Earth's skies, filling the heavens with their ominous presence. Their shadows stretched across the planet, casting a sense of unease over the Earth below. The Empire had made it clear they would not allow any further delay. The rejection of their demands was seen as an act of rebellion, one that would not go unanswered. As the fleet prepared to launch its final attack, Lara Xu sat in the command center of Earth's central operations. The room was filled with experts from around the world. Scientists, engineers, and military strategists. They were all working together, racing against time to develop a way to protect Earth. "Any word from the fleet?" Lara asked, her voice calm but sharp. "No, not yet," one of the officers replied, his face tense. "They've been silent for hours, but we're certain they're preparing something. They'll strike soon." Lara nodded, her mind racing. They were prepared to defend Earth, but she knew that the Empire's technology was far more advanced than anything humanity had ever seen. The only advantage Earth had was its unity, its determination. But was that enough? "Keep monitoring them," Lara said. "We need to know exactly when they make their move." But there was one more thing that could help them. A secret weapon. It was something that had been hidden for centuries, buried deep beneath the Earth's surface. An ancient device left behind by a long-forgotten race of beings who had visited Earth long before humanity had risen to prominence. The discovery of the device had been made years ago, but its true potential had been a mystery. Earth's scientists had only just begun to understand its power. The relic was massive, almost alien in its design. It was a weapon, but it was unlike any technology humans had ever known. Lara had made the decision to activate it, but the question was whether they could get it online in time to make a difference. The facility that housed the relic was located in a remote part of the world, deep beneath the surface of the mountains in the Himalayas. A team of Earth's best scientists and engineers had already been dispatched to the site, but activating the device was no simple task. It was a puzzle of ancient technology, one that had taken months of study to even begin to comprehend. Dr. Elena Reyes, a brilliant scientist from Mexico, stood before a massive control panel, her fingers trembling as she inputted commands. She had worked tirelessly on the project, spending days in the remote facility, trying to unlock the secrets of the device. Now, it was time to see if all their hard work would pay off. "Are we ready?" Lara asked over the communication link. Dr. Reyes looked up, her face filled with a mixture of excitement and uncertainty. "It's ready, but we have no idea how effective it will be. The device could be more powerful than we think, or it could malfunction." Lara's heart pounded in her chest. The stakes had never been higher. If the device worked, it could be the key to turning the tide in humanity's favor. But if it failed, Earth might not survive the coming attack. "Do it," Lara ordered. With a deep breath, Dr. Rice pressed the final button. The entire facility shook as the ancient machine roared to life. Energy surged through the system, lighting up the control panels and filling the room with a blinding light. Lara watched as the sensors on her own monitor flickered to life. She could see the Empire's fleet, still in orbit above Earth. They were preparing to launch their attack. But now, Earth had a new hope. The energy from the relic shot up into the sky, converging into a powerful beam that shot into space. The beam was unlike anything the world had ever seen. Bright, focused, and unstoppable. It surged through the Empire's fleet, disabling their systems with a force that made the ships tremble. Back in the command center, Lara's team watched in awe as the beam cut through the darkness of space. It was working. The Empire's ships were being disabled, one by one, their systems crashing and flickering out of control. "We're doing it," one of the officers said, his voice filled with disbelief. "It's working. The fleet is losing power." But Lara knew that this was only the beginning. The Empire would not back down easily. This weapon could stop them for now, but it was only a temporary solution. They needed to buy more time. "We need to make sure they don't regroup," Lara said urgently. "Activate all Earth's defense systems. Now." As Earth's remaining defenses powered up, the battle in space raged on. The energy beam from the ancient device had given humanity a chance to fight back, but it had also drawn the Empire's full attention. The remaining ships in orbit were now focused on disabling the source of the beam, the facility in the Himalayas. Lara's heart raced as the battle unfolded. She knew that Earth had just gained an advantage, but the real fight was only beginning. The sudden surge of energy from the ancient weapon had sent shockwaves through the Empire's fleet, leaving the ships vulnerable and disoriented. Earth's unexpected defense had temporarily halted the Empire's advances, but the victory felt fragile. The mighty fleet of the Galactic Empire had been stunned, but not defeated. The war was far from over. Lara Xu stood in the command center, her eyes fixed on the monitor. The Empire's ships were still out there, orbiting the planet. Some of them were damaged, but many remained functional. The energy beam had given Earth a brief respite, but it was clear that the Empire was not one to retreat without a fight. "We've only delayed them," one of the officers said, his voice low. "They're already recalibrating their systems. It won't be long before they're back at full strength." Lara nodded, her mind racing. She knew the Empire would strike again. They wouldn't simply let Earth's defense go unpunished. The weapon had worked, but they couldn't rely on it forever. Earth needed something more, something that could turn the tide for good. "We have to keep them off balance," Lara said, her voice steady. "We'll need to use everything we've got. Earth's resources, its people, our unity. We can't let them regroup." As if on cue, a loud beep echoed through the room. One of the monitors displayed a new threat. A second wave of Empire ships was on the move. They were coming in fast, breaking through the darkness of space with a terrifying speed. Their weapons were already primed for attack. "Get all defense systems online," Lara ordered. "Prepare the fleets. Prepare the cities. We're not backing down." Outside, the people of Earth were beginning to see the real cost of the battle. Cities around the world were on high alert. People gathered in bunkers and shelters, waiting for the inevitable. Despite the fear that gripped the planet, there was a growing sense of defiance. Humanity had already stood its ground. The Empire would learn that Earth would never bow. Meanwhile, high in the cold reaches of space, the Empire's flagship Excalion loomed ominously over Earth. Inside the command center, Emperor Zeller paced back and forth, his eyes burning with anger. The unexpected disruption had infuriated him, but he knew that the time for hesitation was over. The humans had shown their strength, but it would not be enough to save them. "Prepare the fleet for a full assault," Zeller commanded, his voice cold and commanding. "This planet will fall, no matter what it takes. We will break them." His advisors nodded, their expressions tense. They, too, knew that the battle would not be won easily. The humans had proven resourceful, but they were still a primitive species. The Empire's technology was far superior. The battle for Earth had only just begun, and the stakes were higher than ever. Back on Earth, Lara and her team watched in grim silence as the second wave of ships approached. This time, the Empire would not be caught off guard. Earth's energy defenses were already activated, but it wasn't enough. The planet would need more to survive. "We need to hit them before they hit us," Lara said urgently. "Focus fire on their lid ships. We can't let them establish a foothold." The first wave of Empire ships had been knocked out of commission by the weapon, but now, with the second wave closing in, Earth had no choice but to fight. The citywide defense systems hummed to life, launching missiles and energy blasts into the sky. As the Empire's ships entered Earth's atmosphere, the battle erupted. Missiles shot into the air, striking the first of the Empire's ships. The impact caused a massive explosion, sending debris scattering across the sky. Earth's defense systems were working, but they weren't enough to stop the Empire's full force. One by one, Empire ships began to retaliate, firing their own weapons down onto the cities below. Buildings shook, and explosions rocked the ground as Earth's defenses tried to hold their ground. Lara's heart raced as she watched the battle unfold. She knew that they couldn't afford to lose. Earth had already rejected the Empire's offer. There was no turning back now. "Focus all firepower on the flagship," Lara ordered. "If we can take out Excalion, we can cripple their command structure. Everything else will fall apart." The battle in space intensified. Earth's forces focused their energy on the Empire's flagship. The Excalion was massive, a ship of unimaginable power. But Earth's people had something the Empire didn't: hope. They fought not just for their planet, but for their future, for their right to live as they chose. As the Excalion took hit after hit, the energy shields flickered, weakening with each strike. It was clear that the Empire's flagship was beginning to falter. But Zeller would not give up so easily. He watched with fury as his prized ship took damage. "Reinforce the flagship's shields," Zeller barked, his voice rising with anger. "I will not be defeated by these pitiful humans." But it was too late. A final, massive blast from Earth's defenses struck the Excalion, sending it into a violent spin. The ship's shields collapsed, and a massive explosion erupted from within. The flagship of the Galactic Empire, once a symbol of untouchable power, was now nothing more than debris. On Earth, a cheer erupted in the command center. The Excalion had fallen. The battle was far from over, but the tide had shifted. Lara stood tall, her heart still pounding in her chest. "We've won this round," she said, "but the war is far from over." The Excalion was gone, reduced to debris in the cold expanse of space. But the Empire's defeat had been a temporary victory for Earth. The loss of their flagship was a blow, but the Empire was not one to give up easily. Lara knew this wasn't the end of the fight. It was only the beginning of something much bigger. The command center buzzed with activity as the officers analyzed the situation. Earth's forces had taken down one of the Empire's most powerful ships, but more were still out there. The second wave of ships was advancing, and without the Excalion, the Empire's fleet was in disarray. But the Empire's leaders were already regrouping, preparing to send more ships to the front lines. "We've got them on the ropes," Lara said, her voice steady despite the urgency in the air. "We need to press our advantage. Earth's people have proven their strength, but we must keep up the fight." The officers nodded. Despite the chaos of the battle, they could see that Earth was making progress. The energy weapon, once thought to be a last-ditch effort, had become a symbol of humanity's defiance. The weapon had disabled much of the Empire's fleet, and now Earth's defense systems were holding their own against the remaining ships. But the question remained: how long could they keep up the fight? In space, the Empire's fleet was reorganizing. Without the Excalion, the Empire's command structure had been thrown into confusion. But Emperor Zeller was not a leader who would tolerate failure. He was already devising a new plan. If he could not crush Earth with sheer force, he would do so through strategy. "Deploy the remaining ships," Zeller ordered. "We will finish what we started. The humans may have gotten lucky, but they will not survive our full might." Back on Earth, the situation was becoming more dire. With each passing hour, the Empire's ships grew closer. The defense systems were holding up, but it was clear that Earth couldn't withstand another full assault. The energy weapon had been a game-changer, but its power was finite. Humanity needed to find another way to secure their survival. Lara stood at the command center, her gaze fixed on the screens. Her team had been working around the clock, trying to come up with a plan. They had fought back the Empire once, but it seemed like the battle would never end. There had to be a way to turn the tide permanently. "We need to hit them where it hurts," Lara said, thinking aloud. "The Empire is powerful, but they rely on their ships, their fleet. If we can destroy their ability to communicate, to organize, we can defeat them." A young strategist named Michael, who had been working alongside Lara, stepped forward. "There's a way. We've been studying the Empire's communication systems. Their fleet operates under a central command structure. If we can take out their communication hub, it will throw their entire fleet into chaos. They won't be able to coordinate their attacks." Lara's eyes widened as she considered the possibility. "Where is it located?" Michael paused for a moment, pulling up a map on the screen. "In deep space, near the edge of the galaxy. It's a relay station, the heart of their communication network." It was a risky plan, one that would require everything Earth had left. But it was their best chance to bring the Empire to its knees. Lara didn't hesitate. "Prepare a strike force," she ordered. "We're going to destroy that relay station." As Earth's forces prepared for the mission, the tension was palpable. The battle for Earth had raged for days, and now the fate of humanity rested on a single, high-stakes mission. The relay station was deep in enemy territory, surrounded by multiple layers of defense. The strike team would need to be fast, precise, and silent. "We'll have one shot at this," Lara said, addressing the team. "We hit them hard and fast. We don't leave until the job is done. This is our best chance to win this war." The team assembled quickly, pilots, engineers, and soldiers, all ready to fight for their home. They knew the odds were stacked against them, but they were determined. They had already proven that they were not going to back down from the Empire. And now they would fight for the future of Earth. The strike force launched their ships, heading into the vastness of space. The mission was clear: infiltrate the Empire's defenses, destroy the communication relay, and cripple the Empire's ability to coordinate. It was a dangerous mission, and the risk of failure was high. But it was the only hope Earth had left. The team moved swiftly, navigating through asteroid fields and Empire patrols. It was a perilous journey, but Earth's forces were resourceful. They managed to slip past the outer defenses, and as they approached the relay station, they prepared for the final assault. Inside the relay station, the Empire's soldiers were unaware of the incoming attack. They were focused on maintaining the communication lines that kept their fleet connected. But the Earth team had one advantage: surprise. The strike team descended on the station with precision, using stealth technology to avoid detection. They planted explosives on the core systems, ensuring that when they detonated, the station would be completely destroyed. As they set the final charges, Lara's voice came over the comms. "All teams, pull back. The mission is complete." With a deep breath, the team retreated to their ships, and seconds later, the relay station exploded in a brilliant flash. The communication hub was gone. The Empire's fleet would no longer be able to communicate or coordinate. Back on Earth, a cheer echoed through the command center. They had done it. The tide of the war had shifted again. The Empire was in disarray, and Earth had struck a decisive blow. But the war was not yet won. The Empire would retaliate, and Earth would need to remain vigilant. The battle was far from over, but for the first time, humanity had hope. The Empire's communication hub was gone, shattered into pieces that drifted silently through space. The destruction of the relay station had left the Empire's fleet in disarray. No longer able to coordinate their attacks, the Empire's ships drifted aimlessly, vulnerable and scattered. The strike team had completed their mission, and Earth had gained a precious victory, but Lurix knew that the battle was not yet over. In the command center, the atmosphere was tense but filled with hope. The team had watched the explosion on their screens, their eyes wide as the relay station crumbled. It had been a gamble, but it had paid off. The Empire was temporarily blind, but that would not last long. The humans still had to keep fighting. "Do we have confirmation on all the Empire's fleets?" Lara asked, her voice steady despite the weight of the situation. A technician nodded. We've confirmed that their primary fleets have lost communication. However, we still detect smaller forces around key locations. They're disorganized, but they're not giving up. Lara took a deep breath. The tide had turned, but it wasn't enough yet. We need to finish this. We can't let them regroup. As Earth's defenses held strong, the Empire was forced to adapt. Emperor Zolar was furious, his rage palpable even through the vastness of space. His fleet had been severely weakened, and the loss of their communication network had dealt a blow that could not be ignored. Yet, even in his anger, he knew that the war was not over. The humans had struck a blow, but they had not won. "We regroup," Zeller said coldly, his voice cutting through the chaos aboard his flagship. "We may have lost our command structure, but we still have the strength to crush them. We will not let these insects think they've won." Back on Earth, Lara and her team knew the Empire would retaliate soon. They had managed to disrupt the Empire's plans, but the Empire's resolve was unshakable. Earth had to prepare for the final battle. This was the moment that would determine everything. Lara turned to her team. "We've fought for this planet, and we've proven that we can stand against the Empire. But this is our last chance. We need to unite every force we have, every ship, every weapon, every person. We finish this now." The next few days were a blur of preparation. Humanity's military forces, already stretched thin from the ongoing conflict, worked tirelessly to reinforce Earth's defenses. Every city was on high alert, every ship ready to take to the skies. The people of Earth had rallied, their hope and resolve stronger than ever before. The message was clear: Earth would never surrender. As the final battle loomed, Lara stood at the command center, watching the ships launch from Earth's surface. The sky was filled with humanity's greatest weapon, their unity. Earth's defense fleets, along with the remnants of the strike teams, formed a massive armada ready to face the Empire head-on. In space, the Empire's remaining fleets regrouped, ready to strike back with all their might. They had suffered losses, but they were not finished. The final battle would be a clash of titans, one that would determine the fate of Earth and the galaxy. Lara's pulse quickened as the Empire's fleet appeared on the horizon. The battle was about to begin. This was humanity's last stand. The fight would be intense, but Earth had something the Empire didn't: the spirit of its people. They had fought for survival, for freedom, and for their right to live on their terms. The time had come to prove that humanity's strength was more than just their technology. It was their will. As the first shots were fired, the battlefield erupted into chaos. Energy blasts filled the sky, and explosions echoed through space. The Empire's ships fought with brutal precision, but Earth's forces had learned from their past encounters. They fought with determination, refusing to back down. The battle raged on, but slowly the momentum began to shift. The Empire's fleet was no longer as cohesive as it had once been. Earth's unity, combined with their new strategies and the support of their allies, was proving to be a force the Empire couldn't easily crush. In the heart of the battle, Lara's voice rang out over the comms. "Push them back. Earth is not yours to conquer." The energy from the ancient weapon was once again deployed, blasting through the Empire's defenses and disabling their ships one by one. The strike teams that had fought so hard to disable the communication hub were now taking part in a final assault, targeting the last remaining Empire ships. One by one, the Empire's forces began to falter. The battleships that had once ruled the skies were now broken and drifting. The Empire, once unstoppable, was finally crumbling under the weight of humanity's resolve. With a final, decisive blow, the last of the Empire's fleet was defeated. Their flagship, the Dominance, was the last to fall, its massive form exploding into space as Earth's weapons cut through its defenses. The battle was over. Lara stood in the command center, staring at the screens. The Empire was no more. Earth had won. The room erupted into cheers. The people of Earth had fought with everything they had, and they had emerged victorious. The threat from the Empire was gone. Earth was free. But as the celebrations began, Lara knew that the real work was just beginning. The war had taken its toll. Entire cities had been destroyed, families had been torn apart, and the cost of the battle had been high. But Earth had survived, and in the face of all odds, humanity had shown that they would never be conquered. The galaxy had seen humanity's strength. The war was over, and now, a new chapter in Earth's history would begin. With a deafening explosion, the Dominance was torn apart. The flagship, once a symbol of the Empire's power, was no more. The Empire's fleet, already struggling, was now without leadership. It was a devastating blow. The remaining Empire ships scattered, their commanders unsure of what to do. Without the Dominance, the Empire had lost its will to fight. Earth's forces pushed forward, taking down the last of the Empire's ships. The battle was won. Lara watched from the command center as the last of the Empire's fleet was destroyed. There were no cheers, no celebrations, only relief. The war was over. The Empire had been defeated. Earth had won, but the cost had been great. Cities had been destroyed, lives lost, and the scars of the war would remain. But humanity had survived. They had proven that no force, no matter how powerful, could break their spirit. As the dust settled, Lara looked out at the stars. The battle had been won, but the future was still uncertain. Earth would rebuild, stronger and more united than ever before. This war had shown them their true strength. They had fought for their freedom, and they had won. And with that victory, the dawn of a new era began.